Hello, welcome to the completely unscripted portion of the video. I knew I probably should have come up with some kind of concept before we started, so here's my vague idea. I know I wanted to do sitting because that sounded a lot easier to do out of clay, and then if I have extra clay I want to make guy because who doesn't like guy? So I have my concept art, as shitty as it is, and I can just vaguely put it off screen to keep it in mind. We got white clay. We got black clay. We got brown clay, gray, dark green, dark purple, light purple, more white, so I can mix it with other colors, and then I just got some random ass red, yellow, green, and blue in case I needed colors that were not some of the main ones. So now we have all of our clay resources here for us, ready to be used. And I don't know how I'm going to film this process, but we're sure gonna try. And we're gonna try to make sure that the camera doesn't focus too much on these nails, because these are, oh boy, these are bad. Like, if you saw these up close, I would disgrace and dishonor the entire queer community.
By the way, don't forget to check out Loop SMP the series when episode 1 comes out in a week or two from now. We've worked very hard to tell the story of the server through these fun little animatics, so the lore is easier for everyone to catch up on. I think we did a really good job, and I hope that you'll come see the project when everything is finished. That's all for now, so let's get on with the actual video here and save the fun animatics for later. First thing I did with this craft is I had to take a bunch of clay, mostly white and black, and I had to slap a little bit of purple in there to get the right color, and then I had to mix it together to make gray. Granted, this was a much more difficult process than I expected. Also, I grabbed a Funko Pop just for size comparison because I don't really know how big YouTooz are supposed to be. And as you can see, mixing the clay, like I said, not really as easy as I thought it would be. It was like wrestling against stone. It did not want to mix. But eventually, after a lot of strain and struggle, I did get the right color. And I'm using this little statue of my own Minecraft skin to compare the colors. As you can see, I needed to add a little bit more white to the gray, and then I started rolling out my base for the head. I know the head's supposed to be hollow when you're making clay stuff, but I didn't do that. And then I immediately went into working on the hair. I started mixing the colors together, and then I ended up with all of these. And I had all the colors from my skin. I compared it to the figurine. I got it from one of my partners. And yeah, now I'm ready to begin some of the actual sculpting. I cut out the hair with some scissors, and I didn't really think it through until I realized I was having a struggle to put it on the actual model, but eventually we got there, and I cut out another piece for the second half of the hair, and then I got the body by rolling some green and purple clay together, and began sticking on details very rapidly after that. And then I got my clay color for the purple half of Rain's face, or my face, depending on how you want to word it, and I cut out a little bit of a pattern with these scissors, as you can see. It was actually very tricky to get this clay onto the character's face. I had to lift up the hair, which was not an easy task, because I had pushed the clay on very firmly, but eventually I peeled away enough, and then I could just push the bangs back in place, and since I'm going to put the purple highlights there, it's not that big of a deal. And there I am, putting the purple highlights down, and bazinga, we got all the stripes and the highlights in place. So now I just gotta start doing the limbs, but then my cat Jinx interrupted me, and I couldn't leave my queen waiting, so I had to go take a break for a bit. I put all my clay into these little plastic bags, and I decided that I would continue this little project tomorrow after I spent some time with Jinx.
Alright, it is day 2. Day 2 of working on this. I was only able to get back to it today. Everything's still in bags. So we're gonna get back to working on it. A lot of it's probably gonna be off camera because my phone keeps nearly dying when I try to record all of this. So, there are probably gonna be less footage in this half of the video, but an attempt was made, and that's what really matters in our hearts.
Alright, we're back on day 2 of this little project. I've already rolled out some lighter clay to make the arms, and I'm going to cut them to be a bit of a shorter length, and I already stuck it in the little pose because it wasn't really that hard. I just did it off screen. And now I'm rolling out some longer strands because these are going to be the iconic tassels on my character's shoulders because you can't have Rainbott without the tassels. Now that the tassels are on, I need to attach the other iconic accessory, which is the split-dyed bow tie. This one was a bit tricky to get on because I already had a lot of details in this area and all the pieces were very small, flimsy, and fragile. So I kind of had to struggle and then push it on there. These I also just cut out with scissors and then I used my hands to even them out after to get rid of any rough edges that the scissors made. And then I just stuck on this little piece for the middle and there we go. We got a nice little split bow tie. This statue is coming along very nice so far, so I finished up the arms and added some hands, which was definitely the hardest part of this entire process. Now I'm rolling out some darker clay for the legs, and I had to really put a lot of pressure on to roll out the legs, because God forbid any of this clay move easily. And then to stick them on there, I kind of just very poorly melded it on. As you can see, I used the back because I don't plan on showing the back anyway, so I just kind of rubbed it on that way. Then I got the other legs stuck on after a minute. There we go. And now that we have both of our legs, we can take a look at our figurines so far. It seems like they're coming along pretty well. They're stable enough to sit up, so that's a good thing, but we're gonna need some extra support. And now that all of that's done, we can begin sculpting something else with this extra black clay that I have left over, and that's this chair. This is going to be the main support beam for my little sculpture slash statue. Without it, I don't think the figurine would be very stable to sit anywhere. So next, we have to make these little shoes, and the shoes were really easy. They don't have a lot of detail, but I had to add a bunch of bands around the legs because, of course, I added so many layers and colors in the Minecraft skin that I had to include them in the YouTooz design. At this point, I'm honestly really surprised by how well this has been going because I don't really have a lot of experience or background in clay sculpting at all, but comparing this to the concept art that I sketched up at like 3 in the morning, this is looking pretty good so far. So now I'm just going to add some of the final details now that we're in this last stage, and most of this I just did off camera because my phone kept dying, so it was kind of hard to record when my recording thing kept shutting off. Here I rolled out the YouTooz eyes into the iconic squint style, or whatever you'd call their brand. But I had a bit of trouble because the green eye was a bit bigger than the purple eye, and I had to keep taking it off to cut it down to make sure that I would get it perfectly even. Eventually, I stuck it back on there without much trouble. After the eyes, I added the iconic YouTooz smile because, of course, that's the other key feature that I didn't want to miss. I'm aware that there are probably some YouTooz that don't have the smile, but like most of the Minecraft ones I've seen do have it. So here's our finished product. Except we're not entirely done yet because we still have to oven bake this bad boy, but before the oven potentially ruins it, I did want to take a nice look and do some size comparisons. It's surprisingly big. It's bigger than the Funko Pop, actually, and it's also bigger than my hand. See, here we have everything lined up for the height comparison, so I might have gone a little bit overboard, because I'm still not entirely sure what the actual size of a YouTooz is, and I probably should have looked it up before making this video, but I'm not that much of a tryhard, so I didn't want to. Now that Jinx has finally reminded me that we need to progress the video a little bit more, I took this bad boy down to the oven so we could bake it. I kind of just googled the instructions online, and I just stood around in the kitchen with my puppy Jake while we waited for the oven to heat up to the right temperature. Jake was admittedly not very thrilled by this entire adventure. Once my oven was heated up to the proper temperature, I very poorly maneuvered myself to open it and then slide this bad boy inside. I was very nervous because I know that you're supposed to make your clay thin or hollow, and I didn't do that. And some parts of the clay statue were actually thinner than others, while the head and the main body were really thick. The wings actually broke off during the baking process, and even though Jinx was there to be my emotional support animal throughout this entire endeavor, I was still very worried about the clay breaking. I was right to be worried, it turns out, because eventually, throughout the process, a bit after I stopped recording, the wings actually broke off. So I nabbed my little hot glue gun and just kind of glued the wings back on, and there was a little bit of a crack down the middle of the face because it was too thick, admittedly, but otherwise I think it came out really good, and now it's even more breakable than it was before. So here I am in my Minecraft shrine, right above my office, and right next to all of my Minecraft Legos and all the Loop SMP fan art is the Rainbott YouTooz that I made. And if you guys end up making your own YouTooz figurines, go ahead and share them with me on Instagram because I would love to see if anyone else wanted to try this idea. That's all for now. Bye bye everyone.